Well, Robyn, thank you so much for joining me today.
I am so excited that you invited me to join you today. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Robyn, we are going to talk about a sensitive subject today. It's always sensitive when we talk about death. It's certainly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I had to visit the hospice for the first time to visit a friend who was on his last few days.
Yeah.
And from the moment, I was apprehensive driving up there, not knowing what to expect. But as soon as you turn onto the driveway, the black asphalt, the long driveway that you have into the hospice, there is, and I'm not just saying this, there's an overwhelming sense of peace on that
Oh,
property. And from the time that I parked my car to walking in, I met a gracious elderly lady that I'm only assuming that she was volunteering her time, welcoming people there, checking them in, walking them to the room. From the moment that I stepped foot on or drove onto the property to the time that I left, it was very peaceful and in some ways very therapeutic as well.
I'm really glad to hear that because I think that's a big part of what makes us special at the hospice. It's not just a place, a building. It's so much more than that. And I think we could talk about what makes Foothills Country Hospice the best hospice in the whole world. And we could say, oh, we have the best staff, but everybody would say, oh, we have the best staff if they work at a hospice. But when I think about our hospice, I think about our setting, and that really changes the dynamic of someone's stay with us and someone visiting us, because it is incredibly unique that we have this rural setting, but yet we're so close to so many different urban areas. So we serve
Hmm.
Calgary and the Foothills area.
Okay.
So, as you described, when you're driving down that long driveway, it is like you feel like you're out in the middle of the country. If you go on our walking paths or out on the back patios, you're overlooking the mountains to the west. And it is just this quiet calm. And I say that's what's so special about us is it's the vibe that you get when you come here. Obviously, the people are incredibly important, but just our physical setting here of where we're located, it's just quiet, calm, peaceful, everything you
Right.
want it to be.
Absolutely. No, and it is such a beautiful setting.
Yes.
Now, can you go a little bit into the background? Like, how long has the hospice been there for? And, obviously you guys are going through some changes as well. You're expanding as well. So, how long has the hospice been at that location?
Sure. The doors officially opened in January of 2008. It's a unique way that we came about. It was a very grassroots movement. There was a lot of volunteers that drove that opening of the hospice. So it had been years behind the scenes, people working and fundraising and doing all that work until we actually opened the doors in 2008 and welcomed our first resident. The land itself had been donated by somebody who was part of that group that was working to advocate for having a rural setting type of hospice that would serve the Foothills area. So volunteers from day one have been incredibly important to the hospice.
Hmm.
As I noted, super grassroots in terms of this is just a bunch of people who cared about having this kind of service available to our community members, and just understanding how critical it was to have this to serve the people that we have in our community. And I often say that we had an event not long ago, and I was speaking with someone and telling them how, I'm really sorry that you needed to have the service of the hospice. That's always sad, right? That
Hmm.
you don't want to need the hospice, but when you do, I'm so glad that you were able to get into our hospice. Because I think of particularly people from Okotoks, people from High River, anywhere in the Foothills catchment. It's a totally different experience if you are coming either as a resident or to visit your loved one here, as opposed to if the nearest hospice is in Calgary. Now all of a sudden
Hmm.
we're adding the stress of driving. Where am I parking? Where am I going? If you're not regularly going into Calgary. So it really is like that homey feeling of this is a very familiar setting for everybody who's part of our community out here.
Absolutely. And that makes such a huge difference to take away any added stress because people at
Yes.
that time do not need any more stress.
Nope.
They're going through a flood, a wave of emotions, and to not have to worry about parking, access, whatever
Yeah,
is
exactly.
is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And just the role that you play in the entire family's life, where they now have a place where they don't feel that they have to be entertaining when people come to visit, because people want to come and say goodbye for the last time, and to alleviate those stresses of having to keep the place tidy, to have food on hand, to serve the people that show up, but as opposed to just come and visit with the family and the loved one that's passing away.
Yeah, that's a huge part of what we do. As much as it is about caring about the resident and making sure that they live well during their journey to end of life, it is really about the family, because so many people, the family, the loved ones, they become the caregivers. They take on that stress until that family member or loved one has joined us at hospice, and suddenly they get to resume the role of daughter or mother or
Mm-hmm.
uncle or friend. They actually get to enjoy time with their loved one. It's really meaningful time, as opposed to if you are caring for that person at home, it's a toll, it's tiresome. You want to be there to help your loved one as much as you can, but if we can take away all that kind of clinical stuff and we do that for you, you just get to spend time with your person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hear, like, I wasn't able to experience the food, but I hear the food is unbelievable.
Our head chef Derek, when I first met him, he said to me, he was describing the food, because he's like, this is not a hospital. We do full fat, full flavor food here. There is no
Yeah.
ifs, ands, or buts, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's such a huge element too, right? Like, if the people coming there were worried about the food, or having to order skip in because the food wasn't good, right? It's just everything, again, to maybe sounding cliche, there's lots of moving parts, there's lots of instruments in a symphony, but it is, from the moment you drive on, it's a symphony of people coming together to help those walk through a very difficult time in the last stages of life.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that analogy. It's perfect, because it's you can't have one without the other here. Like, we have an outstanding clinical staff and team, but all the support behind the scenes, they can't do what they do if we don't have excellent housekeeping, facilities, an accountant, the kitchen staff, volunteers. The list can go on and on and on.
can we talk about that a little bit, because that must
Sure.
be very, because you're hiring very special people.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a rare person to throw their resume into work at a hospice, and then not only just to put the resume in, but to have the personality that works in unison with the hospice. So that's no doubt a very difficult hiring process. But what does it do to your volunteers and staff? Like, because this must take a toll a little bit on, quite a bit, I shouldn't downplay it, quite a bit on staff members.
Yeah, I would say that it does. We are very cognizant of the role that we play in people's lives, and there's some people who come here to see their loved one, and they will remember the people who were working with their loved one for the rest of their lives,
Absolutely.
because of the impact that they've made. But I think at the root of it, we all have shared value. Like, we really walk the talk. We always talk about, we have compassionate care, quality care. We treat people with dignity and respect, and that's across the board. So, you can have all the technical skills that you want. So, when we are recruiting people, you can have all those technical, check all those boxes, but you need to come from a place of compassion and understanding where people are in their lives when they come here, and particularly their loved ones, because that's really, again, who we work with the most are the loved ones. In terms of, how do we manage some of that, taking on some of that? It's tricky, but uh, it's it's an interesting dynamic that people, when they come through the doors, and I hope that you experience this too, is that it's very warm.
Hmm.
The people are warm, but there's often humor, and that's the part that I think surprises a lot of people, because they think of hospice and death, and it's sad, and it is sad for sure.
Yes.
But I think a lot of our staff members and volunteers are very personable, and we actually laugh a lot, because the whole idea of coming to hospice is to live well. So we are
Hmm.
not here to mourn people in the present. We really want to be in the moment with them. And how is that? you have to be truly authentic. It would be terrible if you came here and everybody was downtrodden and sad. So we just try to make the best of what life has to offer. So there's quite often laughing happening down the hallway, stories being shared, a hug here and there. It's just it's a different work environment than anybody would ever imagine. And we really make an effort so that our visitors and our loved ones and the residents, they all experience that as well.
Yeah. No, and the few hours that I had there, it certainly was evident. Like the staff, you could tell, love their job. Obviously, they could see the vision and the importance of their job and what they did in just caring for. Yeah, it wasn't just the person that's passing away; it was for the entire family. And
Yeah.
kudos to you guys. This is
Thanks.
just a fantastic thing. Now, who funds the hospice?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So technically, we are part of Alberta Healthcare in some capacity. We are essentially we are contracted by Alberta Healthcare.
Okay.
However, we are not fully publicly funded. So it's kind of in the range of about 57% comes from Alberta Healthcare. And the rest we actually receive from donations, fundraising events, grants, some investment opportunities. So it's a pretty big load that we have to fundraise every year. With the new expansion, we're kind of estimating that our fundraising will be about 1.75 million annually, with the remainder being subsidized by Alberta Healthcare.
Sorry, can I cut you off? Can you explain that? 1.7 million annually, that's with the addition?
Yes.
Okay, so that's your budget every year is 1.7 million.
That's what we have to fundraise. So that's
what
our portion of fundraising. So let's say if that's about 43%, then Alberta Health Services would fund us the 57%. So that doubled essentially, plus a little bit more. So Alberta Health Services, we are a contracted facility with them. We're part of the Calgary zone for palliative care and hospices. So there's 7 in total in the Calgary zone. And this is all part of the public healthcare system. So this is, and I would say this is probably a misnomer, a bit of a myth out there about hospice, is that it is part of your healthcare journey. So if you come to that part of your end of life, or there's a palliative diagnosis or life-limiting diagnosis, you don't have to die at home. You don't have to die in the hospital. You can go to a hospice that's part of the system, and we care for you. And that's our specialty, which is the critical part. It's 24/7 care. The numbers of clinical staff to residents is significantly higher than it would be, say, if you were at the Foothills Hospital, right? So it's just that amount of care is really unique and special. And it's important that people understand that although we say we need to raise $1.75 million, there is no cost for the resident or their family.
Right.
So their stay here, their meals, that's all covered by that 1.75 million plus the AHS portion that they support us annually. The only cost generally for our residents or their loved ones is if they wanted to order extra meals for their loved ones, or they have an oxygen contract that they need to pay for, or some medications that aren't covered. But the beauty is that we also have team that can support people and guide them should they need financial assistance with any of those extra costs. So it's not just you come here and your stay and your meals are included, like there's no charge for those at all. But should you need any financial assistance, again, we have the people who can send you in that right direction.
Right. No, I didn't realize the whole funding scope. So that's very valuable. So throughout the course of the year, no doubt you have different ways of fundraising. How can people get involved? How can people get involved to help in the fundraising or attend events or whatever? Can you walk us through a calendar year of events?
For sure. There's a lot of different ways that people can get involved. So you can make a monthly donation, and then at the end of the year, we send you a tax receipt for that. So we are a registered charity. So anybody who makes a donation, they will receive a tax donation for their income taxes. So we can do a monthly donation if they'd just like to donate. We have an annual Hike for Hospice Hustle, which is a walk and a run. And that happens the first Sunday of May. So this past May, we welcomed over 800 people to the event and raised over $120,000.
That's
And that
awesome.
was downtown Okotoks. It speaks to the volume of how our community supports us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important to recognize, is that how I mentioned the hospice came to be because of a grassroots volunteer group of people. It's so many people that still from that day are connected to the hospice, that they regularly contribute their time and money to the hospice to continue it running successfully. So we built a lot of really great relationships with our community members and neighbors throughout the years. That's really helpful with the fundraising. We have other kind of smaller programs or events that happen, but our next one will be in October, and it is an annual event as well. For those who have been involved with the hospice or familiar with the hospice, they would think of it as the gala.
Mm-hmm.
However, we are going to try something new this year, and I can't tell all the details, but we are trying something new and a little exciting, I think.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get away from, kind of the old school sit down fussy kind of dinner and make it a lot more fun for people to come out. Last year, our event, it was kind of a hybrid of what we're thinking of doing this year. And the feedback we got last year was how much fun I had. And that's really important when we think about anything for fundraising for the hospice. Because again, we hear the word hospice. It's scary. We're talking about death. No, thank you. Hard pass.
Yeah.
But we really want to make sure that people come to our events and understand that it's very purposeful. But it's also, again, it's a reminder of when people are here, we are trying, it's the quality of life right to the end. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
you won't give us any kind of hint as to what
Okay.
what's going to be like. Like
First, yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead.
For whatever reason, I'm envisioning like cowboy hat and boots.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
That's just a guess. Okay.
Been there, done that. So
Stampede.
it's Friday, October the 17th. And we want to turn it less into like a formal sit down and more into entertainment evening. So there's more for our attendees, less about us, because sometimes with the formal sit down dinner, it's a lot of speeches and that, which are very important. We still want to do a portion of that, but we want to make sure that people are coming and having a good time.
Yeah.
So we're looking to entertain people at this upcoming fundraiser in October, and there might be games.
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be some good food, some good drinks. Might be a stage show of some variety.
Yeah, very cool. No, that's awesome. Yeah, and you're
very
right.
mysterious. I'm sure.
I'm sure there'd still be a few speeches, but yeah, if you can get away from the speeches and just have fun and but yeah, that sounds amazing. Now, what if we have some people that want to volunteer? Like, what are ways that people can volunteer?
Volunteers are so deeply a part of the hospice. We have people who help at reception. We have people who help with landscaping in the kitchen. We have some volunteers that create memory books. So every resident that has come through our doors, there is a book, and our volunteers lovingly collect items that are memories from those people. And we have a collection. So if anyone comes back to visit us years later, we can dig that out and we can reminisce about their loved one. It's a really lovely thing.
Yeah.
But we have lots of opportunities for volunteers. It could also be at our special events. Obviously, we need many hands makes for light work. But everything can go to our website, including any of the fundraising, so any donations. All that information is online on the website at countryhospice.org. So if there's any additional information that people are looking for, they can generally find at least a snippet there. And then they'll get a direction of if they need to talk to someone. They're certainly welcome to reach out as well. Yeah.
What's when I was visiting there, I heard that the average stay is about 2 weeks. Like, what is the criteria? Like, if somebody has a loved one that's starting to look like they may need hospice care, I'm sure that there's a bit of a process. What is that process for signing someone up, and then the requirements for getting?
That's a really great question, because I think this is a big myth when it comes to hospice care. As I mentioned, we're part of the public healthcare system, and so when someone has reached towards the end of life, they've received a palliative diagnosis or a life-limiting diagnosis. If they're receiving home care, they can speak with their home care manager to discuss options in terms of, are we prepared? Or do you think it's time to make those steps? Or they'd have that discussion with their physician. So it's not necessarily families or loved ones coming directly to the hospice. So they go through the healthcare system. still with their physicians and any of the palliative care team once they receive those diagnoses. And then they complete almost like a preference list, because we are part of the Calgary zone. And just depending on where space is available, the residents would choose their top 3, let's say, of places that they would like to go. And for the most part, they generally get their first choice. And then from there, once that has been established, it can actually happen quite quickly, depending on the availability of beds within the hospice space.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's also up to the resident and their loved ones, because there's nothing to ever stop someone from changing their mind. So if let's say they put a certain hospice on the top of their list, but there didn't happen to be space there, but there was space at the another hospice. And if they say, you know what, I'm just not comfortable there, that's fine. That's totally fine. There is no, you absolutely have to go to that other hospice. It comes down to time. How much time does someone have? Where does their physician feel like they're at in their life? And then the family can make those decisions and have that discussion together.
Right. Yeah. How many beds are there?
So the hospice started with 8 beds. All of our rooms are private individual rooms with their own washroom, shower. There's even a pull.
And they're beautiful.
They are beautiful. Yes, absolutely beautiful.
So
Lots of room, not cramped.
Yeah.
Each room actually has a pull-out bed as well. So if loved ones wanted to stay the night, they're welcome to stay in the room or even during the day, if they'd like to catch a cat nap, they're welcome to do so. Our housekeepers are happy to provide some linens and get them all set up. But we started with 8. The expansion, which we have phased kind of into our renovation phase, which is great. That means that we're almost at the end. So we have moved over to the new addition side now with our residents. And we're hoping by September, October, all the renovations will be done. And once complete, we've doubled the space to 16 beds.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a big change, and we're really excited for it, because we never want to have to turn someone away when they need the space, and we want to be here for them.
Absolutely. Robyn, before I got on the recording with you this morning when I was walking the dog, I thought, I'm going to listen to a podcast from a hospice nurse. And I'm like, man, this is like so, I don't know, morbid. And, but, after listening to that hospice nurse, there was just such a piece that she even delivered when she was talking about death, because so many people, when they're dying, it's very similar. Like, yes, different. Everybody's different and has different, but there's certain things that happen that are, basically signs in someone's life that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right. And, whether it's, I don't know if you guys this was an American hospice nurse. I don't know if you guys give out a brochure as to here are some of the things that you can start to expect your loved one to do and say. But the one thing that they talked about was kind of the visions and visits from people that have moved on already, whether that's grandparents or a spouse or sometimes even a dog. They would have visions. They would say weird things like, my dog curled up with me last night while I was sleeping, or I had a visit from my wife who has passed on and she told me it's going to be okay. And that it actually just gives me goosebumps, because we are so afraid, especially when we're not dealing with death every day like you guys are. There's a fear that I don't even want to talk about it. But when you dive into it, and that podcast really opened my eyes up to, just the peace that does come. And, we had one lady, they mentioned one lady who was talking about, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going home. And that's very interesting to me.
Yeah. In my role, sometimes I miss out on I'm not as patient or resident facing, so I miss out on a lot of those, but I work so closely with our family-centered liaison.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing because you came across, you said, I'm not as patient. And I'm like, what? You seem pretty patient to me.
I'm all right. I'm okay. I work closely with our family-centered liaison, Jenny, and she works as part of the clinical team.
Yeah.
And she has shared very similar stories to that about our clinical staff experiences that with our residents all the time. And it really is, when you think about it, that is so comforting. And I have heard other stories of very mysterious things happening. I haven't seen this story firsthand, but it was shared with me that there was a gentleman who absolutely loved moose. And on the day he passed, there happened to be a moose out back.
Really?
How does that
Wow.
happen?
Yeah.
Doesn't that give you goosebumps?
Yeah, that's very
But
cool.
I think, you know what? I think you're right, though. It does feel like when we talk about death, it's very morbid. But when we can start thinking about the comfort and the peace, like that's a different dynamic with hospice. When people come here, for the most part, it's at that point where they and their loved ones have accepted to some degree that this is part of the end of life journey. And it changes the dynamic of, let's say, someone who had been battling cancer. It changes the dynamic of hope. And hope is no longer, I hope there's a cure, I hope they get better. It turns the dynamic of hope, and it kind of redefines it as, I hope my loved one finds comfort. I hope my loved one lives without pain. I hope that my loved one is at peace. I hope that the last few moments I spend with my loved one are memorable and meaningful. And I hope that I can say goodbye to my mom or my dad or whoever the case may be. It's somewhat of a gift that when people are at hospice, there's that opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, Robyn, I just feel there's so many different angles we could certainly take this, because I know then, you're certainly needing to be sensitive to people's religious backgrounds and what they believe. And there's many different religions and beliefs out there as to what does happen afterwards. But the one thing that we can definitely say is you are fulfilling your mandate of giving people that stress-free, peaceful environment to take them to their next step in entering the next life, or whatever may await. And so I walked away that day with a great appreciation for the Foothills Country Hospice, and just how pivotal it is to a community. And so we thank you. If you can send the thank you to your staff as well, and everybody that volunteers there.
I always do.
You just even, you pull up some of the, I think, I guess I'm kind of surprised that there are some Google reviews on you guys, right? But there is, you guys are, Foothills in Okotoks is amazing. The care they gave was incredible, and the environment felt warm and lovely. Foothills Hospice near Okotoks. My grandmother spent her last few days there, and it made the most of a bad situation. It's very quiet and beautiful. Yeah. So thank you, Robyn. Thank you for what you guys are doing.
You.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Honestly, we couldn't do what we do without the community support. And I think that's really important to emphasize, is that, we may be a team here, but we're a collective team within the Foothills, and particularly with Okotoks, because we really wouldn't be here without that.
Right. Yeah. And, we're kind of evolving as a podcast too. At the start of the podcast, I'm going to start, giving a few shout outs here and there. So in important dates and different things like that, just reach out to me. Okay. Send me an email. Let me know. Sure. Because I'd love to, you guys have my support, and the support of the entire community. That's for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah. And you know what? That's funny, because I think that's what people forget about. That's also support. People think of money. They have to give money. There's so many other ways that people can support a nonprofit, or particularly the hospice. Follow us on social media, sign up for a newsletter, help spread the word, like be an ambassador essentially for the
share
hospice.
A post, hit that,
totally.
Just share a post. Don't even have to say anything, comment or anything. Just share it.
Just share it, because you might not have the money, but you might know someone who does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Robyn, thank you. Thanks, has
Carlin.
been a pleasure. Certainly, it's one of those conversations that was certainly heavy going into, not something that you're like, oh, this is, but we do thank you for your service to this community. And, we're looking for ways to support you, whether it's social media, whether it's coming to not the gala. Let's not call it the gala, but maybe it's the walk, the run, whatever. But we thank you very much for what you mean to this community.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robyn.
Yeah.